Welcome the anointed ones. When you throw stones at a sleeping lion, don't be surprised when it wakes up and roars louder than your courage can handle. The truth is, messing with a chosen one is like playing with fire while soaked in gasoline. Bold, foolish, and inevitably disastrous. History has shown us time and again that when people rise against those divinely protected, they don't just lose the fight. They lose everything they thought they controlled. Here's a fact to think about. Over 80% of human conflicts stem from envy, yet the ones who provoke the chosen never seem to envy the consequences of their actions. Funny how that works, right? In this video, we're diving deep into how the torment you endured didn't just anger you, it angered God. They thought they were lighting a small flame, but instead they ignited a blaze they can't extinguish. Buckle up, because this story is one of divine justice, karmic irony, and a fire they'll wish they never started. At number 1, they didn't realize the magnitude of your calling. They didn't know who you were. They didn't understand the weight of your existence or the magnitude of your calling. To them, you were just another person, someone they could tear down, ridicule, or manipulate. But what they couldn't see was the divine purpose woven into your being. You weren't ordinary, and their actions weren't just an attack on you. They were a direct challenge to something far greater. By tormenting you, they stepped into a battle they weren't prepared for. Your silence wasn't weakness, and your endurance wasn't surrender. It was patience. Patience born from knowing you were protected by a force they couldn't comprehend. Their arrogance blinded them, making them think they could treat you however they pleased without consequences. But every word they spoke, every cruel action they took, was like writing a check their soul couldn't cash. You see, when someone comes against a chosen one, they're not just harming a person, they're disrupting a divine plan. Your presence in their life wasn't random. It was a test, a lesson, or even a warning. But instead of recognizing it, they chose to attack it. Their actions sent ripples into the spiritual realm, and those ripples have consequences. They poked at something they didn't understand, and now they're feeling the weight of what they've unleashed. The truth is, they didn't realize they were setting themselves up for their own downfall. They thought they were putting you out, but they only fueled the fire within you. And now, as your light grows stronger, they're left standing in the shadows, wondering how they lost control of a situation they thought they had in their grasp. They underestimated you, and they underestimated God's hand on your life. Number 2, their arrogance made them think they could escape consequences. They thought they were untouchable. Their arrogance made them believe they could do whatever they wanted to you and walk away unscathed. In their minds, they were too clever, too powerful, or too well hidden to ever face consequences. They saw your quietness as weakness and your patience as permission. But arrogance blinds people to reality, and in this case, it made them ignore the spiritual laws that always balance the scales. They didn't just hurt you. They dared to interfere with something sacred. When you're a chosen one, your life isn't just yours. Your journey, your purpose, and even your battles are tied to a greater plan. By trying to sabotage you, they essentially challenged God's authority. And here's the thing about God. He doesn't lose battles. They weren't just taking on you, they were taking on forces they couldn't see, forces they didn't believe in, but forces that are undeniably real. They acted as if there was no reckoning, no spiritual order that would catch up to them. They convinced themselves that their schemes would stay hidden, that their lies would stand unchallenged, and that they would walk away untouched. But arrogance is always loudest before the fall. What they didn't anticipate was how quickly the tables would turn. Now they're caught in a fire they lit themselves, and no amount of cleverness can save them. Their schemes have unraveled, their masks have slipped, and the very energy they used to harm you is coming back at them tenfold. They thought they were invincible, but they underestimated the power of divine justice. You didn't have to lift a finger. God saw everything, and now they're realizing just how wrong they were. Their arrogance was their greatest mistake. Number 3, they awakened a divine fire that was meant to refine you. What they did to you was meant to break you. They wanted to see you crushed under the weight of their cruelty. unsure of yourself, questioning your purpose, and walking away from the path you were destined to follow. But their plan backfired in a way they never saw coming. Instead of breaking you, their actions ignited something powerful inside you, a fire they couldn't control. They thought they were destroying you, but all they did was awaken the part of you that was built to overcome. Their torment became your refinement. Every insult, every betrayal, and every attempt to undermine you was like pressure applied to coal, turning it into a diamond. You didn't just endure, you evolved. What they failed to understand is that when a chosen one is put through the fire, it doesn't consume them, it purifies them. The very pain they inflicted became the thing that sharpened your resilience, your focus, and your faith. They were so blinded by their need to see you fall that they missed the bigger picture. The more they pushed you, the closer you got to your destiny. It's ironic, isn't it? They were working against you, but their actions ended up propelling you forward. The energy they used to harm you only fueled your transformation. Now, they're watching in disbelief as you rise stronger, wiser, and more unstoppable than ever before. What they meant for harm, God turned into a stepping stone. They wanted to see you fail, but all they've done is set you up for a victory they'll have to witness. The fire they started wasn't your end. It was the beginning of a version of you they can never defeat. Number 4. Their actions served as evidence in the spiritual realm. Everything they did to you wasn't just seen, it was witnessed, recorded, and weighed in the spiritual realm. Every cruel word, every calculated betrayal, every malicious scheme, they thought it ended when you walked away, when no one stood up for you, or when no earthly justice seemed to come. But what they didn't realize is that nothing escapes divine attention, especially when it's directed at a chosen one. When you are God's vessel, you are not walking this life alone. You carry a purpose that's protected, a destiny that's guided, and a spiritual defense system far beyond human understanding. Their actions weren't just an attack on you. They were a direct challenge to the divine plan working through you. Each offense wasn't merely a moment of cruelty. It became evidence in a case they didn't even know they were building against themselves. The spiritual realm is not ruled by emotions or chance. It's governed by laws, justice, and balance. Every lie they told about you echoed louder than they imagined. Every betrayal, no matter how well hidden, was laid bare before forces far beyond their comprehension. They thought they were clever, escaping earthly accountability, but their actions were never unnoticed. The irony is that they crafted their own downfall. With every hateful act, they added to the spiritual scales tipping against them. They may not have seen the immediate consequences, but the reckoning was inevitable. What they planted in darkness is now bearing fruit in the light. Their own behavior became their testimony. And now, as they face the consequences, they can't deny the truth. Justice isn't always instant, but for a chosen one, it's always certain. Number 5. They mocked what they couldn't understand. Their mockery wasn't about you as much as it was about what you represented. They didn't understand the light you carried, and instead of seeking to understand it, they lashed out. Why? Because your presence disrupted something within them. The divine favor on your life wasn't something they could grasp, and what people can't understand, they often attack. Their laughter, their sarcasm, and their attempts to diminish you were rooted in ignorance. They saw your calm confidence, your resilience, and your faith as things to ridicule because they lacked the depth to see the truth. But it wasn't just ignorance. It was also rebellion. The light within you exposed the shadows in their own lives, the insecurities, the jealousy, and the fear they couldn't face. Mocking you became their way of deflecting, of avoiding their own reflection in the mirror your presence provided. What they failed to realize is that mocking the chosen isn't a harmless act. It's a rejection of the divine energy working through you. Every word they spoke against you wasn't just noise. It was an act of rebellion against something far greater than themselves. And rebellion against the light always comes at a cost. Their cruelty didn't diminish your light, it amplified it. While they were busy tearing you down, your strength grew. While they ridiculed what they couldn't comprehend, your purpose became even clearer. Now, as they watch you rise, they're beginning to see what they mocked wasn't weakness but unshakable favor. And that's the ultimate irony. Their attempts to break you only revealed the strength they could never understand. Number 6. They thought your silence was weakness. They completely misunderstood you. When you chose silence, they interpreted it as submission, as if you had nothing left to fight with. They thought your lack of retaliation was proof that they'd won, that their actions had broken you. But they were wrong, dead wrong. Your silence wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. It wasn't surrender, it was strategy. You knew something they didn't. Not every battle needs your voice. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is step back and let a higher power take over. While they were busy plotting, lying, and digging traps for you, you stayed still. Not because you couldn't fight, but because you understood that divine justice is far more precise than anything you could deliver. What they didn't realize was that your silence wasn't the absence of action. It was the loudest call for divine intervention. While they mocked your quietness, laughed at your restraint, and celebrated what they thought was your defeat, the fire they lit was already turning against them. The energy they used to harm you was circling back, and by the time they noticed, it was too late. The irony is that your silence exposed them. In their arrogance, they revealed their true selves. Every lie, every cruel act, every false mask fell away because they thought you weren't watching, weren't capable of defending yourself. But your silence wasn't ignorance. It was the ultimate power move. Now, as they face the consequences of their actions, they're starting to see the truth. What they mistook for weakness was strength beyond their understanding. By staying silent, you didn't lose the battle. You handed it over to a force that never loses. And that realization is their ultimate defeat. Number 7. They ignored the warning signs. The signs were there, clear as day for anyone paying attention. A moment of unexplained misfortune, a dream that unsettled them, a nagging feeling that something wasn't right. These were the subtle warnings sent their way. But their pride drowned out the whispers. They dismissed those gut feelings as paranoia, chalked up the setbacks to bad luck, and ignored the dreams that should have made them pause. Instead of heeding these warnings, they doubled down, convinced they were untouchable. God doesn't act without mercy. Even those who do harm are often given chances to turn back, to reflect, and to change their course. These warnings weren't punishments. They were opportunities for them to stop and reevaluate their actions. But pride has a way of closing off the heart and silencing the voice of reason. They ignored the growing cracks in their plans and the quiet unease that should have made them question their motives. They mistook the delay in consequences as a green light to keep going. What they didn't realize was that the warnings were growing louder with every step they took toward their own destruction. By refusing to listen, they sealed their fate. The very pride that made them blind to these signs also made them vulnerable to the fire they were lighting for themselves. Now, as everything crumbles around them, they're starting to remember those moments, the dreams they shrugged off, the sudden difficulties that seemed out of place, the inner voice that told them to stop. Those were the signs they ignored, the lifelines they rejected. Their downfall wasn't sudden. It was a slow, avoidable descent. But pride, their greatest flaw, made them blind to the mercy that could have saved them. And now, they're left to face the consequences of their stubbornness. Number 8, they tried to bury you, not knowing you were a seed. They thought they could bury you. They believed that by pushing you down, by trying to erase your existence or silence your voice, they could get rid of the threat you posed. What they didn't understand is that when they tried to bury you, they were unknowingly planting you deeper into your purpose. Like a seed hidden in the soil, thought to be lost in the dark, they didn't realize the power in that darkness. What they failed to see is that being buried isn't the end. It's the beginning. The darkness they tried to trap you in became the perfect environment for growth. While they thought they were burying your potential, they were unknowingly nurturing it. Every attempt to break you, every effort to hold you down, was actually pushing you closer to the breakthrough you were destined for. Just like a seed in the earth, you had to go through a period of being hidden, of being tested, before you could rise. In the depths of their schemes, you were silently transforming, developing strength, wisdom, and clarity. They thought they had won because they couldn't see the progress you were making. But soon enough, the day came when you emerged, stronger, more powerful, and unrecognizable to those who had once believed they could destroy you. Meanwhile, their own lives began to unravel. The weight of their actions, the lies, the cruelty, and the arrogance, they couldn't escape it. What they tried to bury was the very thing that would rise to show the truth. As you blossomed into your divine purpose, their own downfall was set in motion. They planted the seed, but they never knew it would grow into something greater than they could ever understand. Number 9. Their plans backfired spectacularly. Every move they made against you, every scheme they thought would bring you down, only set the stage for their own downfall. They plotted, they strategized, thinking they could outsmart the universe, but in the end, they only outsmarted themselves. Every attempt to destroy you only ended up becoming a trap for them to fall into. What they failed to understand was that when you're aligned with a higher purpose, nothing can derail you, not even the most carefully crafted plans to bring you down. Their actions weren't just against you, they were against something far greater. They thought they were in control, pulling the strings, but every thread they tugged on only tightened the noose around their own necks. What was meant to harm you became the very thing that exposed their flaws, their lies, and their weaknesses. They wanted to see you crumble, to watch you fail. But instead they became trapped in the webs they wove. The plans they set in motion were like boomerangs, always coming back to them, and now they're left reeling, facing the consequences of their own choices. As you rise and continue on your path, they are stuck in the mess they created. Every decision they made with malice and intention has spiraled back to them in ways they never anticipated. Now, instead of seeing you fall, they're left to confront their own failures and the inevitable fallout of their actions. Their plans backfired spectacularly, and now they're left with nothing but the wreckage they created. The irony, they thought they were burying you, but they were only digging their own grave. Number 10. They've lost favor while you're gaining it. Every move they made to strip you of your dignity, to attack your character, or to undermine your worth has only worked against them. They thought they could break you down, leave you isolated, and take away the blessings that were rightfully yours. But instead, their actions triggered a chain of events that stripped them of everything they thought they controlled. Their cruelty and malice didn't just backfire, it led them straight to the loss of favor in every area of their lives. Socially, they found themselves abandoned by those they once counted on. The people they manipulated and deceived are now seeing the truth for what it is. No longer able to maintain their facade, they've lost their influence, their networks, and their support. As they continue down their destructive path, the very people they thought they could control are turning their backs on them, seeing them for what they truly are. Spiritually, their disconnection from the divine has deepened. They may not even realize it yet, but every action they took against you was an action against something far greater than themselves. The universe doesn't tolerate such disregard, and now they find themselves in spiritual drought, unable to receive guidance, unable to tap into the flow of blessings they once took for granted. Materially, their grip on their possessions, their wealth, or their success has started to slip away. What they gained through deception is slowly dissolving. They thought they could take from you and keep everything for themselves, but now the very blessings they tried to deny you are flowing freely in your direction. The tables have turned, and as they struggle to hold on to what they once had, you are witnessing the abundance that was always meant for you. Their loss is your gain. Number 11. They provoked the wrath of a protective creator. They made a grave mistake when they thought they were merely targeting you. What they failed to realize was that in harming you, they were actually provoking something much greater than themselves, the protective force of the Creator who watches over you. You were never alone in this battle. They weren't just taking aim at you. They were challenging the divine powers assigned to your life, and those powers do not take kindly to such defiance. Every time they tried to tear you down, every malicious act, every lie, and every attack on your character, they weren't just fighting a person. They were clashing with a force far more formidable than they could ever understand. They saw you as weak, as a target they could conquer. But in their arrogance, they forgot that you were chosen, marked by divine protection, and those who attempt to break you would have to face the consequences of challenging something they could never defeat. Now, as they grapple with the consequences of their actions, they are starting to see the magnitude of their error. They thought they could escape the repercussions of their actions, but the universe doesn't forget. The wrath of a protective creator is not one to be underestimated. What they've sown is now coming back to them, not in small measures, but with overwhelming force. They thought they were in control, but they were only fueling the fire of their own destruction. As you continue to rise, shielded by divine favor, they are left to contend with the fallout of their spiritual defiance. What they never realized is that by attacking you, they were essentially setting the stage for their own downfall, caught in the powerful cycle of cause and effect. Their punishment is already underway, and it's far more than they ever bargained for. Number 12. Their fire has become their furnace. The fire they set with such confidence, believing it would burn you to the ground, has turned into an uncontrollable furnace that now consumes them. They thought they could destroy you by turning up the heat, through lies, betrayal, and cruelty. But what they didn't anticipate was that they would only stoke a fire that would eventually turn on them. The flames they kindled with malicious intent have grown out of control, and now they're trapped in the very inferno they created. What they failed to realize is that when you're chosen and protected, the fires of adversity only forge you into something stronger. They thought that by putting you through the flames they could break your spirit, but instead they strengthened your resolve. Meanwhile, the destruction they unleashed is now burning away their own foundations, relationships, opportunities, stability. Everything they thought they could hold on to is being scorched by the fire they lit. The more they struggle to escape, the more intense the furnace becomes. What they once believed would be a means of their victory has turned into a relentless force of karma. No matter how much they try to run or fight back, they can't escape the consequences of their actions. The damage they caused is now reflecting back in their lives, destroying their peace, their happiness, and their future. Every ounce of cruelty they sent your way has multiplied, coming back in ways they can't control. The furnace they've found themselves trapped in is relentless. There's no escape, no place to hide, because the very fire they ignited is now a reflection of their own darkness. They sought to watch you burn, but instead they are being consumed by the flames of their own making. In the end, what they thought would break you only made you unbreakable. Every act of cruelty, every attempt to tear you down has only fueled your rise. They ignited a fire they couldn't control, and now they're caught in the flames of their own making. They thought they were attacking you, but they were really challenging something far greater, the divine protection that has always been with you. As the tables turn, you stand not only unscathed, but stronger, more powerful, and more aligned with your purpose than ever before. While they grapple with the wreckage of their actions, you walk forward, blessed and unstoppable. The universe has a way of righting wrongs, and those who come against you will always face the consequences of their defiance. Their loss is your gain. Their fire has become their furnace. And you? You are the proof that nothing can stand against you when you're chosen and divinely protected. What was meant for your harm has only set the stage for your greatest victory. Keep rising, because the best is yet to come. If this message resonated with you, and you can feel the power of your own rise, then you're exactly where you're meant to be. Don't miss out on more powerful, truth-filled content that will keep you aligned with your purpose and unstoppable on your journey. Hit that subscribe button, join the community, and make sure you're always one step ahead of the game. The path ahead is yours, and together we'll walk it stronger, wiser, and unapologetically chosen. Subscribe now, and let's keep this momentum going. The best is yet to come. Stay blessed.